Chapter 1. Moonlit. Sophie was trapped inside the smothering red and gold hallways. The walls seemed to grow impossibly high to either side, and her breath plumed in the icy air as she scuttled away from the huge, dark shape that stalked her. It opened its vast black jaws, and ropes of saliva dropped onto the wood floor. "No!" Sophie shrieked. Her back hit something solid, and she looked up. The red door was to her back, but its handle was far too high to reach. Somewhere in the distance, Joseph screamed. He'd been torn open by the beast, and there was nothing she could do to save him. She couldn't even hold his hand and comfort him as he bled out. The Grimlock reached its claws toward her face. Its maw stretched wide, and she could smell its fetid, rotting breath as it prepared to tear her in two. Sophie screamed. The Grimlock's hand squeezed her, and she thrashed to pull free. But instead of feeling the sharp, cutting pain of teeth, Sophie realized she was struggling against something soft and giving. She opened her eyes and sucked in rapid, panicked breaths. She was in her room. It was dark, but the coals in the fireplace still glowed, and the air was crisp, telling her it must be early morning. She rolled onto her side to feel for Joseph's comforting warmth, but his half of the bed was empty. Dream and reality bled together for a second, and Sophie struggled to her feet, heart fluttering as she prepared to search the labyrinthine Northwood for her husband. No, Northwood was burnt to the ground. It can't touch us any longer. Sophie sank back onto the edge of her bed. The icy air sent chills through her as she gazed about the room. She and Joseph had come directly to her father following their escape from Northwood, and they were staying at his city house until they could secure a property of their own. While the building wasn't tiny, it had a limited number of rooms, and Sophie and Joseph were sharing her old bedroom, which was still decorated in powder blue with bronze trimmings. Sophie was glad to have her husband's company at night, but she couldn't stop the creeping worry that her feeling wasn't reciprocated. Every morning during the past week, she'd woken alone. She tried to tell herself that Joseph was simply an early riser, but the sun hadn't yet breached the skyline, and when Sophie turned towards the window, she could make out a myriad of barely visible stars. "He's avoiding me." Sophie's hands were still shaking from the nightmare. She squeezed them together to keep them still and tried to slow her breathing. But when we left Northwood 2 weeks ago, he loved me. I was sure of it. I couldn't have misread his intentions, could I? No. The words seemed to hover in the lonely room. He told me he loved me. Once. Unable to sit any longer, Sophie rose and pulled her gown around her shoulders. The fireplace's glow was strong enough to show that Joseph's coat and hat no longer sat on the chair where he'd placed them the night before. That meant he'd gone out rather than simply moving to a different room in the house. Sophie crossed to the window and squinted at the ghostly shimmers of light that caught on the rooftops and cobblestones and hovered amid the fog. The street was undisturbed by man or beast. It's not safe out at night. The only people still awake would slit Joseph's throat for his money. Sophie squeezed her eyes closed and gripped the windowsill so tightly that her fingers ached. No, he'll be safe. He's not foolish, and he can defend himself if it comes to that. But why did he go out so early? Did he have trouble sleeping? Or did he want to be alone? A faint tapping made Sophie open her eyes. The sound came from the street below, but it echoed between the houses and made Sophie unsure of its direction. Just as the noise resolved itself into brisk footsteps, a figure swept into view, its long legs gliding through the tendrils of mist. Sophie recognized the posture and quick pace as her husband's, and the band of anxiety around her chest loosened. She turned from the window, intending to go downstairs and greet him at the door, but stopped herself. He left so that he could be alone. Don't smother him. Wait for him to come back to you.